Alright, I am sitting down to do the third video today. Yesterday I was down in a secure bunker, safe away from the insanity in the world, and today I'm high up in a little, shall we say, high hide. Up and far away from the world of insanity and looking out on a nice sunny field. So my spirits are up and we're doing just fine. It's a nice sunny day here in the Midwest of the US of A, and we're doing all right. So in this video I want to talk about Protestia and how they handled this group of people, whether it's J.D. Hall or somebody else. I'm not exactly clear on that. How they handled the Alistair Begg situation, because they put this out a week ago on January 30th, 2024 at 5:20 p.m. Protestia. After Begg's initial comments, we took a wait-and-see approach regarding him as a brother who is in error. Well, we waited, and we saw, and after his recent explainer message, we now regard him as a brother who is in error, who we no longer recommend or commend, because we absolutely do not trust his ability to consistently, coherently, and accurately exegete the scriptures. So that based on what Alistair Begg said in the interview with Bob Lepine and his message in response to all the insanity following the 17th and 18th of January on the message that he gave, I believe it was the 30th or the 29th, from the Parkside church pulpit. Preaching from Luke 15, he basically gave a response and basically targeted at Alistair's church. Again, it's a message to his church. It wasn't a podcast. There's a lesson for us all in that. But okay, so Protestia's claim. After Begg's initial comments, we took a wait-and-see approach regarding him as a brother who was in error. Did you take, Protestia, did you take a wait-and-see approach? Well, let's take a look-see here. Well, this is interesting. The 18th of January. Now, here's what you need to understand, right? This all came out, I think, largely due to Protestia. Protestia put this out, and then it was unmissed by almost everybody. Everybody on Twitter started talking about it, and then following everybody on Christian podcasting. Now, the originator of all this is the evangelical dark web, and Protestia did a hat tip. That's what that means, hat tip, evangelical dark web, in their post, their article online by a staff writer. On the 18th, so hat tip to Evangelical Dark Web, which published on the 17th of January, 2024. So really, the Evangelical Dark Web started this whole thing, and you can see that. But I'm going to focus on Protestia just because that's how everything got onto Twitter. So what did Protestia say the day it happened, right? So based on a 3-minute clip, really just 1 minute of audio, where Alistair Begg gives advice to a grandmother to go to a, quote, trans wedding of her grandchild to a transgender person. And he said, he said to the grandma, does your grandchild know that you have a faith in Jesus, and that because of your faith in Jesus that you cannot affirm their life choices? And she answers yes, and Alistair says, well, if the best way to reach out might be to subvert their expectations and go to the wedding anyway, because they expect, because of your beliefs, for you not to go. And what's the harm in going if they know that you're not they know that you're not in favor, and you're going to come anyway to show love and not to be overly judgmental. Well, Protestia took that and said, Alistair Begg says Christians should attend gay weddings. All Christians in general, should attend gay weddings, not trans weddings, gay weddings. Now, James White picked up on this, and he said, you don't even know if it's a gay wedding, between a man and a man or a woman and a woman. He said, that's not specified by Begg, but it doesn't matter, James White said, because, that's just a whole different level of degeneracy if it's a trans wedding. And, basically closing off the conversation about, what is a wedding, what qualifies as a wedding. If a homosexual wedding isn't a wedding, then is a trans wedding. If a man is marrying a woman who thinks she is a man, is that still a wedding or is that not a wedding? And then should we not go to weddings because it's not a wedding, not an actual marriage taking place, or should we not go to a wedding because it's too immoral? Or the people involved are too immoral, and so all those questions, all those important conversations that we could have had were shut down because this was assumed from the beginning, even though Alistair didn't say this. It was just assumed while he's speaking about a gay homosexual wedding. And so, just completely disregard anything that he says. And then, the reasoning behind Begg's statements was, well, lest they come across as judgmental or critical. Well, that's a false statement because Begg had already said, he already made clear, you condemn their life choices. We don't affirm this. This makes us uncomfortable. This is not what we want for these people, and we want to make clear to them that we don't affirm their life choices, but we don't want to shut off communication, and we don't want to come across as overly judgmental if we're being faithful to God otherwise. And Begg was like, well, it's a fine line. It's a risk. We're going to have to take risks if we're reaching out to people in this degenerate culture. And that was his point, and he said it's a fine line, but it's a risky line, and people aren't going to agree with him on it, and as we clearly see. But it's a chance that he took, and that's what he said in his sermon. He says, I'd rather come down on the side of compassion than on condemnation. Basically saying, I'd rather come down on the side of compassion, which says, yes, your sin is wrong, but I'm not going to be overly judgmental, than the more pharisaical approach, was just to, well, without conversation, we're just going to kind of excommunicate, no longer talk to you, and we don't want to appear like we're affirming, so we're not going to do anything that might appear to be affirming. Same day, let's just see the time here. All right, so 4:18 a.m. on January 18th, followed by 4:26 a.m. January 18th, 2024. So these two came out same time, same thing. Link to this article, and you can read it for yourself. I've already covered this in videos before. I'll link to those if I can. And then this from same day, 5 hours later, 9:53 a.m., January 18th, 2024. This has almost 100,000 views. Protestia doing damage control. PSA, let's keep some perspective about Alistair Begg. Up until 5 minutes ago, half of the people condemning him barely knew who he was and rarely, if ever, interacted with his comment. Now that's true. That is very, very true. A lot of people who are commenting on this are like, yeah, Alistair Begg, 40 years of ministry, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. We can just kind of kick him out. So I have a lot of respect for Alistair Begg. And what's his program? Truth for something. Truth for life. I just checked my notes, and that's how a lot of people interacted with this, because a lot of people who jumped on the bandwagon, saw the numbers, the views, the likes, the retweets going up, were just like, well, I want to get on that gravy train, and so they commented on him. That's my perspective. I think that's true. Up until 5 minutes ago, half the people condemning him barely knew who he was, and if ever interacted with him. Begg has built up a reputation over the decades as a sound expositor of the word. If you want his thoughts on homosexuality, his banner from a few years ago that goes hard in the paint at every chance it gets. And this isn't the only one. He did his Romans 1 series just recently. He did a thing, Strangers and Exiles, that was really good. He's done a lot of different things, as he implied in his response video. But so he quotes from that here. I'm just interested in the Protestia view. Begg has made an error and is being inconsistent in his application of theology, putting forth a bad compromise on this point. But he's not a woke compromiser deserving of a farewell Rob Bell moment. Instead, he has earned the right to be given the benefit of a doubt regarding his error and his motives, along with the opportunity to address it and correct it, without being written off or forever tarnished by those unfamiliar with the faithful way he has led and labored. Well, what did you think was going to come from this? You didn't put that in your article. You just you assumed that he was talking about a gay wedding. You assumed his motivations. You said it was so that he wouldn't come off as judgmental or critical. You did that, and now you're gonna come out and say, well, we want to give him the benefit of a doubt regarding his error and his motives. No, you just specified in your article right here that his motives is not to come across as judgmental or critical, and that what he was actually saying is that Christians should attend gay weddings. All Christians, everywhere, in every circumstance. You said that. 5 hours later, you're saying this, and it's just vague. And then to have the gall. So chill out a bit and wait and see. It gets under my skin. Man alive. So Protestia started this whole thing. So back to this from January 30th after the sermon. After Begg's initial comments, we took a wait-and-see approach regarding him as a brother who was in error. Did you really? Did any of you do that? Who commented on this? Ali Beth Stuckey, James White, Owen Strand, Tom Buck, Justin Peters. Justin Peters, man, I tell you, I was really happy with Justin Peters and Ali Beth Stuckey because they waited. At least Ali Beth Stuckey waited until after the sermon to comment on it. Justin Peters waited until after the American Broadcast Radio people canceled. Well, they said that they talked to Begg's staff and that Begg wasn't going to change his position based on what his staff said. And Justin Peters said, well, I had written a letter to Alistair Begg and I was going to wait to comment on it until I heard back. But I don't need to do that anymore because of what American Family Broadcast Radio, whatever people said about what Alistair Begg's team said. So based on hearsay, and within 2 weeks of it coming out and not giving Begg the time to get his sermon out, just throw him out. Man, and even in that video, Justin Peters was like, you can't recommend Alistair Begg's thing anymore. This is an abomination, etc. And I like Justin Peters' ministry, and this is why this irritates me so much. I like these people. But I think they've been on the internet and on Twitter too much. They need to get off for a little bit and think through some theology on these things, because this is ridiculous. And Protestia and the evangelical dark web are responsible for this. They're the ones who framed it like this. They're the ones who framed it as a woke, non-woke, left-right paradigm, and they set up what I talk about in my post Beware of the Web, that they made the controversy come to the light, and they set up the two sides in a controversy. Let's see if I can find this real fast. Controversy. Okay, so the internet is designed to turn you against your friends. It makes you, 1, aware of the controversy, 2, invested in the controversy, and then 3, involved in the controversy. And it sets this up in a moral framework so that you stop arguing about what you are actually arguing about, and you're arguing to retain your moral high ground. That's what the internet does, and that's what this became on Twitter. It was just who can obtain the higher moral high ground out of this, and push Alistair Begg to the fringes of oblivion. And people continued to assume from Protestia, while listening to Alistair Begg's sermon response, they assumed what Protestia had said. And the really sad part is this right here. Adam Duell. I haven't listened yet, Apparently, Alistair Begg addresses his controversial stance on gay marriage here in this sermon, uploaded yesterday. Unfortunately, I don't have high hopes for the content of this message. My response, why not? Why don't you have high hopes for it? If you've liked Alistair Begg up until 5 minutes ago, why when he hasn't even given a response yet? All you have is hearsay from the American Family Broadcast Radio people who canceled him, and Alistair Begg's 1 minute speech, 1 minute interview segment about Christians, a grandmother giving advice to a grandmother to attend a trans wedding, and in which he said, you know, it's a risk and it's a fine line, and now all of a sudden, before you even listen to his message, you're like, well, I don't really have high hopes. Why? So he explains a bit, and I comment again, I believe, and you can go read that. As well. And again, my point in pointing this out is to say that Protestia and the evangelical dark web, they did this. They did this. This wasn't Alistair Begg. The interview was online for 3 months. Before evangelical dark web and Protestia thought it was, you know, brotherly. Thought Alistair Begg was enough of a brother to contact him directly for comment. They said, "Oh, well, we'll just publish our things and get the controversy started." And then to have, you know, the gall to put Alistair Begg's face up in here, in front of a gay wedding. I just, Lord have mercy. We really need to do some work as Christians engaging online with this, because this is not good. This should not happen again. And it's people have their perspectives completely warped. I don't know what happened with Tom Buck and what he said, and this narrative that Alistair Begg just completely misinterpreted Luke 15. And again, it's based on assumptions that you're bringing into the sermon and not what Alistair Begg actually said. And you know, that's a whole nother video in and of itself. But I just wanted to make this in order to kind of clarify things, because, you know, the issue with this is there's going to be a whole bunch of people now who are going to hear about Alistair Begg, and then somebody's going to say, you know, he supported attending gay weddings for all Christians, without giving him the proper context, without giving him the benefit of a doubt, and actually listening to what he said in his sermon and in the interview. Now, we may not agree with it, but this is at best a secondary issue. And now you have people who are going to get rid of Alistair Begg altogether. They're never going to listen to him again. And you know, this lies largely on Protestia and evangelical dark web. It lands squarely on their shoulders. Because they could have contacted Alistair Begg and they didn't. They decided to publish their articles anyway. Absolute travesty, and we need to take certain precautions so where this doesn't happen again. Especially in the age of AI, when you can make anybody say anything. You know, this all happened in a few hours, and within a few days, Alistair Begg was a woke lefty. Was the result of all this, and it doesn't take that long to completely destroy somebody's ministry, for no substantive reason and without giving him the time of day to respond. And I'd say that to Owen Strachan and to many others who is slow to write, and they all published their articles on the first, within a few hours in some cases, and within the same day, and others. And so I take umbrage with a lot that happened, and it's a good lesson as well to realize that what happened. You know, people, and here's the thing about Alistair Begg's sermon, just while I'm on it. People who are on Twitter and online and listening to all of these people talk about the Alistair Begg situation. Alistair didn't do that. He wasn't listening to these podcasters, these Christian cultural commentators. He made that clear in his sermon. He was reading letters from people who supported him, and his family was telling him kind of the general arguments surrounding the issue. But he wasn't on Twitter. He hadn't already formulated the position. You know, he didn't realize that everybody had basically already written him off. And for no good reason. You know, I think from Begg's perspective, he's like, well, the interview happened, people got upset about what I said in the interview, and so I'm going to respond to that. He wasn't responding to all this junk. um, so that needs to be a lesson. You know, real life is not the same as it is online. And again, I suggest you read this and really think through, uh, you know, how we should engage online as Christians and even as conservatives more broadly. If you're a conservative, listen to this, because our side can do struggle sessions just as well, if not better, than the left can. And we need to be very, very, very cautious because we're entering uncharted waters with this stuff, and we don't have we are not showing a good track record of how to deal with this. And we need to be very, very careful. So this is a more somber video, I suppose, but it's a video I have been thinking of making for a while now, ever since January 30th. It took me a week, but I hope it's useful, and I hope it's useful moving forward. And I hope you really, I'm not going to advocate for listening or not listening to Alistair Begg. I've listened to him for years, and it saddens me to see this. And it saddens me to where, you know, I may disagree with Alistair Begg's advice, but I will defend Alistair Begg to the death, rather than get on the side of people who do this. I will stand with Alistair Begg even if I don't agree with his advice that he gave, because, you know, to quote Alistair Begg, I'd rather come down on the side of compassion while trying to hold to the truth than on the side of condemnation and just write everybody who's not a Christian off without taking certain risks and without risking crossing a very, very fine line. Yeah, so anyway, these are uncharted times and we're going to have to deal with them, but the good news is we are not alone. God has sent his Holy Spirit to his church. We have a helper from on high. We have the apostles' teaching laid down in the scriptures, and we have the Spirit in us. The question is, are we going to spend more time in the Bible than we do on Twitter and online? Are we going to spend more time holding to the truth as it is, listening to sermons and producing sermons than we do listening to podcasts and producing podcasts? That is a great question, and one of the reasons that I ironically am doing these videos is because I think we've gotten way off balance, and we need a major reform in the way that we deal with things online as Christians. Okay, that's all I have for today. This will be my last video. I got some things to do, people to talk to tonight. So bye for now.